So there's a game I used to play with my university jazz students. As they improvised, each person was instructed to put their mental focus entirely on one other musician without giving any obvious clues as to who they were focusing on. Afterwards, they tried to guess who was listening to who, and we talked about whether a person can feel the connection when somebody is really focused on you. The goal of the exercise is to get your attention and your ears outwards, paying more attention to what somebody else is playing than what you're playing, or more to the point, what you're thinking. When I did this with my students, the overall performance inevitably took on greater depth. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Chase Sanborn and I'm a jazz trumpet player based in Toronto. When I'm improvising with a group, one of the things I like to do is to wave everybody out except for the bass player for the start of my solo. With single note lines coming from my horn and the bass, you essentially have counterpoint, and that creates space which gives you the room and the incentive to build during the course of your solo. Whenever I do this, and eventually the rest of the band joins in, there's always a round of applause from the audience. By stripping the musical conversation down to just two people, a listener is better able to hear what's being said. And even as my focus is being drawn outwards, the audience is drawn in. They feel more a part of the music, and they applaud that connection. Improvising in a duo context is like a dance or a sparring match. With only one other person, each of you is focused entirely on the other. The connection is intimate and direct, and you have a lot of freedom and opportunity to take the music in one direction or another. Now, I've had the good fortune to play duo with pianist Mark Eisenman, both live and on record. I feel an affinity for Mark's playing, due in no small measure to his great time feel, coupled with a generous sense of musical adventure. When we recorded our duo album, which we titled Double Double, which is a nod to the quintessential Canadian coffee chain Tim Hortons, we talked about how we wanted to approach it. Mark made the point that in a pairing like ours, it often winds up being 50% solo piano, and he didn't want that. Rather than following the standard format of I solo then he solos, we wanted to make the performances more of an extended back-and-forth conversation. Now that's a challenge for a horn player because we don't easily occupy the role of accompanist. I had to figure out how to remain a part of the conversation throughout the tune without commandeering the spotlight the whole time. After we finished the recording, each of us felt that we had overplayed the other, so I took that to mean that we had probably achieved a good balance. And as I look back over a multi-decade career, that record stands as the truest representation of my own musical ideals. And if you're one of the few people who still has a CD player or you're just a collector of historical artifacts, you can still get a copy at chasesanborn.com. For this video, though, I'm reaching back into the archives of this channel for something that was done during the COVID pandemic. Then, and still now, Mark posts performances and thoughts about jazz on his website, which is jazzpiano.ca, and I'll link that in the description. During that period of extreme isolation, I took it upon myself to add my flugelhorn to a solo piano video that Mark had posted. When he recorded his part, Mark had no idea that I would be adding a part, let alone what I would add. Now, we subsequently did a couple of other tunes the same way, but with the virtual collaboration in mind. They were all posted on my channel at the time, but old YouTube videos tend to languish in obscurity, and I think these warrant a resurface. From my perspective, adding my part to what Mark had already played is akin to playing with a backing track. But since the track was recorded by somebody with whom I have a personal and a musical connection, it felt much more like I was actually playing with him. Now that was important in those days when we all felt cut off from each other. But listening to it now, years later, I think it stands the test of time, and not just as a stopgap measure when there was no other option. I also think there are lessons to be learned from listening to it, which is something I strive for on this channel. In this video, I talked about the importance of trying to interact when you're working with backing tracks. Even though it's a one-way interaction, they can't hear you. In trying to make it sound like we were actually playing together, I had to listen very closely to what Mark played and be ready to shift gears whenever he did. It's similar in a live performance, but it's more organic and it's actually easier when we're able to react to each other in real time. It's also instructive about how to relax and settle into a groove with a metronome, and Mark is a master at that, and yet still lock into the time feel of another musician, which is where the groove truly lies. Now, one thing that I found interesting, and you might as well, is to listen to this once while focusing on one side of the conversation, either the flugelhorn or the piano, and then again while focusing on the other. This is like the exercise I described with my university students, and I suspect that you'll be able to tell the difference when your attention is focused in one direction or another. Now, a little thing that I note with amusement is that you can hear occasional background noise in Mark's video, which I assume is coming from his kitchen, since he lives with a chef. It's reminiscent of the clinking of glasses and the cash register that you can hear in classic live jazz recordings. The tune that we're improvising on is What Is This Thing Called Love? I think the original recording goes on for 6 or 7 choruses, however long Mark's video was, but I'll put my editing skills to the test and see if I can cut that down just a bit. While you listen, I hope you'll take a second to click the like button and afterwards leave a comment. What did you do during the pandemic to keep your sanity? And of course, if you want to see more content related to jazz improvisation, well, stay tuned to this channel.